Welcome to Alpha Insights. I'm Juniper. Today we're focused on the cannabis sector heading into the long weekend, and with me is Jessica to break it down. Remember, if you have questions as we go, you can ask us at stockalpha.ai.
Thanks, Juniper. Great to be here. So the quick framing is this. As of Friday, March 27th, the headlines are mostly about regulatory crackdowns and operators pulling back. Markets are closed today, and we'll be watching how sentiment settles when U.S. markets reopen on Monday, March 30th.
What are the biggest near-term headwinds investors should be thinking about?
There are two big themes. First, state-level rules tightening access. Ohio imposed new limits that make it illegal to bring recreational cannabis bought out of state into Ohio, and it reinstated bans on intoxicating hemp products and THC beverages. Second, operational retrenchment by large multi-state operators. Most notably, PharmaCann announced closures of cultivation sites in Denver and in Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. Those are real, concrete effects on supply and revenue.
Right.
And to add to that, financing conditions matter. Jushi disclosed a non-dilutive refinancing for $160 million at about 12.5%. That brings cash to the balance sheet, but it's more expensive capital than companies were used to a few years ago.
That refinancing number stood out to me. How should listeners interpret a deal like that?
I mean, when you look at the data, non-dilutive debt can be positive because it doesn't dilute shareholders. But at roughly 12.5%, interest expense will be meaningful. Analysts will look at how that affects margins and cash runway, and they'll want clarity at Jushi's quarter-end report, which is scheduled for March 31st.
So March 31st is a key date heading into next week.
Exactly. Earnings and any guidance updates will be parsed closely.
Let's go back to Ohio for a second. What does that import ban mean in practice?
It reroutes sales, and it raises compliance costs. Retailers and consumers who relied on cross-border purchases will see reduced flows. For multi-state operators that counted on nearby demand, this can lower revenue and complicate logistics. So it's a near-term headwind for markets close to state lines.
Interesting.
About PharmaCann's closures. Shutting licensed grows removes capacity, which could tighten wholesale supply in Colorado and Pennsylvania. It also signals management is prioritizing cash preservation, possibly laying groundwork for more consolidation or asset sales if conditions worsen. And another angle here. Culture and policy abroad are more positive. High Times launched travel and Texas-focused docuseries highlighting cannabis club culture in places like Majorca and Portugal's medical market. That supports long-term normalization and international demand. But it doesn't offset near-term U.S. regulatory pain.
The contrast between a travel piece and state enforcement is stark.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also on the policy front in Washington, a bipartisan group of senators filed a bill to support psychedelics research for veterans. That matters for adjacent therapeutic plays and companies with exposure to psilocybin programs, although any federal progress will be slow.
Okay, practical question. What should listeners watch next week?
Focus on a few catalysts. 1. Jushi's fourth quarter results on March 31st. Look for details on cash runway after that $160 million refinancing. 2. State regulatory updates, Ohio clarifications, enforcement notices in conservative states, and any litigation that could change access. 3. Further disclosures from PharmaCann about timing, severance, and asset dispositions. And 4. Flows in the major cannabis ETFs and big names like Tilray. Those often reflect retail appetite heading into the week.
Anything else on risk factors?
Yes. Rising financing costs, tightening state rules, potential inventory write-downs, and a near-term liquidity squeeze for smaller operators. The big open question is where additional capital will come from if conditions tighten further. That will determine who can survive and who may need to restructure or sell assets.
Right. Short reactions. Interesting. Right.
To sum up, selectivity matters. Cultural and international tailwinds are real, but in the near term, regulatory and balance sheet issues dominate the risk picture for many U.S. operators.
Great! Let's wrap with 3 quick takeaways for listeners.
1. State enforcement and new rules are the dominant short-term risk. 2. Watch company balance sheets and upcoming disclosures, especially Jushi's report on March 31st and details from PharmaCann. 3. Policy developments around psychedelics are a long-term catalyst to monitor, but timing and impact are uncertain.
If you have questions about anything we discussed today, you can ask us directly at stockalpha.ai. We answer listener questions live. And for more market insights, head over to stockalpha.ai. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back after the markets reopen on Monday.